name is Madeleine, and I'm going to be your guide through Sweden today, and here's Sweden in a nutshell. I'm from Sweden. I was born and raised in Stockholm. Has anyone here been to Sweden?
No,
okay, few people. That's great. All right, so, well, unlike a lot of people have not been to Sweden, or Americans not been to Sweden. So the ones who have visited Sweden have done so because they have ancestors in Sweden, and that's how they get going there. Well, today I'd like to tell you a little bit more about the Swedish government. Or no, first we're going to start with Swedish geography, as you can see on the map here. So Sweden is a Nordic or northern country. It is very long and relatively narrow. So on the western side here you see Norway. And on the eastern side, across the Baltic Sea, is Finland. And across the Strait of Öresund is Denmark. And just at there's like a small part, there's just a few miles. You can actually wade from Denmark to Sweden, so people can do that. Even so in Norway too, obviously. But Sweden is so far north, part of it lies within the Arctic Circle. And within the Arctic Circle, the sun never sets in the summer or rises in the winter for some days of the year. Stockholm is the, well, here you can see the northern light.
That's beautiful.
So it's really nice. Stockholm is the capital of Sweden. It is almost as far north as Anchorage. Although it is can get very cold in Stockholm, Anchorage is getting colder actually. So, in order to appreciate how big Sweden is, I will compare it to California, which has a similar size and shape to Sweden. There we go. And Sweden is very long. It is 978 miles from north to south and 310 miles from the widest point. And California is just short of 800 miles from north to south and 250 miles wide at its widest point. So Sweden is actually longer in length and width than California. Population-wise, when compared to America, Sweden has very few people, nearly 10 million, as opposed to the estimated 39 million in California, or 327 million Americans in US overall. To be more exact, even the population, there's more, to be more exact, the population of New York City has nearly the same number of people living there than there are in Swedes. So
Wow.
we are quite a small country, but still it's big. So let's move on. So here you can see Sweden too, a little bit of, okay, we have Dalarna there, for example, with a little Dalar horse. But we're going to get into that a little bit later on. So anyway, we're going to move on to the Swedish government. Oh, here's Stockholm.
Oh, that's pretty.
It is pretty.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on to the Swedish government. So Sweden has a government consists of, come on in, there's chairs up here. So Sweden's government consists of a democratic elected riksdag, as we say in Swedish, or parliament, with a constitutional monarchy like the United Kingdom and their queen. So the King of Sweden is Carl Gustav Bernadotte. He was crowned on the 15th of September 1973, and he is our 74th serve as a king of Sweden. And he has a daughter named Victoria, the crown princess, and she will become queen after her father dies. So yes, Sweden has a king, but it also has a prime minister. Stefan Löfven, who is currently the prime minister. He's been since 2014, and he is leads a government of a coalition of 4 other parties in the parliament. Now, before we talk more about Sweden, I must make one thing perfectly clear here. Sweden is not Switzerland. Okay? We have two different countries here. Can we make that clear now? Sweden is not Switzerland. All right, good.
Thank you.
Welcome. So Swedes travels a lot, and almost all Swedes have had this following conversation. Question, where are you from? Answer, I'm from Sweden. Oh, response, I love the Alps, or I love the Swiss chocolate. Here.
Is it better?
Yes. So believe me when I say that almost everyone has done it, it is true. So, as you will be working here at IKEA, you will have the opportunity to tell people IKEA is originally from Sweden. And I can guarantee you that someone probably will say to you, oh, I love Switzerland. So, anyway, here's a please correct me. Yeah. So here's some more fact about Sweden. Vikings, as we say in Swedish, or Vikings. Many people, when they think of Sweden, immediately think of Vikings. Yes, Swedes are ancestors of the Vikings, but so are the Danes, the Norwegians, and the Icelandics. Many believe the Vikings were just big, mean barbarians and raided across Europe in their long boats. This is only partly true. Many more Vikings were traders, looking to sell their wares, or were farmers looking for suitable land to farm, as the Scandinavian soil is very rocky. But when the Vikings attacked people who could read and write, and also who were the ones who kept the historical records, it's not surprising that often only negative facts were kept. Move on to the Sami. So Sami people. Sweden is one of the few European nations to have a population of indigenous people. This would be the same as the Native Americans here in the United States. The Sami people have about 100,000, about 50 to 60,000 of them live in Sweden. The rest of them are spread across the northern Europe. They're mostly known for their reindeer herding. Many Samis combine their family business with tourism, fishing, craft, or other trades. They speak their own language, have their own parliament to coordinate different groups across Sweden, Norway, Finland, and Russia. Move on to the dollar horses. Here we have them. It was in a small log cabin deep in the forest of the region Dalarna during the long winter nights in front of the log fire that the dollar horse was born. Using simple tool, only generally just a knife, they would make toys for their children. Many dollar horses were not painted, so they would actually look like this in the beginning. But it was in the beginning of the 19th century, they started painting them in single colors, red or blue. Or white or red, sorry, you're right. And it wouldn't be until the 19th century that Stig-Åke Erik Hansson introduced a technique where you paint with the same brush with the two colors. So, and it's still used today. In the 1930s, many production of the dollar horses started, and it marks the beginning of the new era for the dollar horses, in transitioning from a toy to a national symbol and a popular souvenir. And the next slide we have is going to be of a dollar horse. This is one up in Mora in Sweden, but this one is actually in Minnesota, one to the left.
Oh, okay.
So there's one there. So we have Swedish invention.
Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
Should have had like that invention.
IKEA?
Yeah, I was hoping. But Swedes have been very active since the 20th century, creating new products, technologies, and Feliz. So some examples include Absolute Vodka. We have Pacemaker. 3-point seatbelt, very important. Volvo. H&M. We have Skype and Spotify. Now, if you look at the picture here to the left, there's the Swiss flag being raised at the stock market in New York City in celebration of the Spotify going public.
Big mistake.
It should have been the Swedish flag, obviously. Now, it was only, to their defense, it was only up for a few minutes until they realized and they swapped the flag. But still. Exactly. Time for us to see it. So. We also are famous for the Nobel Prize. This is Alfred Nobel, and he invented the dynamite. And which was used originally for mining and construction. Nobel wished to promote better human future, so therefore he created the Nobel Prizes. The prizes are for work in the fields of medicine, chemistry, physics, literature, economics, and peace. They are awarded every year on the December 10th by the Swedish king. However, the Peace Prize is given out by the Norwegians, not the Swedes. And now we're going to show a little movie about Sweden, so enjoy.
Söka sig mot himmelen istället vara fri. I ljuset av den dröm vi har, där målet skimrar starkt och klart, fylls min själ av glädjerus när allt blir uppenbart. Det är nu vi spränger gränserna, tron på all vår kraft. Det är nu vi ska förverkliga alla stora drömmar, alla stolta drömmar som vi har. När solen färgar himlen röd, då fällda vindar flyttas berg. Då litar alla till sin glöd i tron på dagets färg. Tillsammans blir vi starkare, och när vi visat vad vi kan, en för alla för en, då når vi ända fram. Det är nu vi spränger gränserna, tron på all vår kraft. Det är nu vi ska förverkliga alla stora drömmar, alla stolta drömmar som vi har. Alla
I'm going to talk a little bit about cultural differences. Like we said in the beginning, we all grew up, was born in Sweden, grew up in Sweden, and moved to the US as adults. So we have been experiencing some cultural differences. Some are easy to adapt to, some are a little bit harder. First of all, we don't have any no trespassing signs in Sweden. You have the right to public access wherever you want to go. You can ride, walk, bike, camp on any land in Sweden, except in a private garden or near anyone's house. And we call it the freedom to roam. No matter what time of year, Swedes spend a good part of their free time outside. In the summer, it usually means heading to the summer cottage, which is usually a traditional wooded cottage. And in the winter, the Swedes like to get out on the snow or ice for skiing, cross-country skiing, ice swimming, ice fishing. Snow is ice, we have a hot sauna next time.
Pushing you.
And no, we don't have any polar bears in Sweden. All right, so there's no coincidence that IKEA has a wide range of shoe racks, because when entering a Swedish home, you take off your shoes. You can't enter a Swedish home with your shoes on. So that's been a little bit tricky for us, like Americans coming into our house, like, can you take off your shoes, please? And Swedes are a little bit bad for small talk. We feel a little bit uncomfortable when strangers start talking to us. This is how it can look when Swedes are waiting for a bus. Or we're sitting on the bus, like one on each row. However, in Sweden we learn English from 3rd grade. So if you're an American coming to visit Sweden, we would gladly showcase our English skills. So don't worry, we will answer your questions politely. And if you find yourself in a situation you have to make a short conversation, the best topic to talk to a Swede is about the weather. We talk about the weather a lot. And like you said, and you probably noticed since you started working here in IKEA, in Sweden we don't use any titles. We don't have sir, ma'am, Mr. or Mrs. Since the late 1960s, actually, we took that down. Since that, we've been talking to each other on a first-name basis. So no titles at all in Sweden, except for the king. We still call him. And IKEA has one of the best parental leave benefits among all retailers in the US. Sweden has a very long parental leave for new families. Parents are entitled to 16 months, almost 1.5 year paid leave, getting almost 80% of their normal pay. That's awesome. And in Sweden's effort to achieve gender equality, half of that time is for the father and half of it's for the mother. So if you're walking around in a Swedish town, this is what you probably will see. A lot of fathers pushing strollers, having a fika, and they say they're feeding their babies.
That's good. Nice.
And despite the fact that Swedes do love a drink or 3, buying alcohol in Sweden is not that simple. The liquor stores in Sweden are a government-owned chain, and the only retail store allowed to sell alcoholic beverage that contains more than 3.5% alcohol. At Swedish restaurants and bars, the legal age is 18 to buy a drink, and you have to go to the liquor store, you have to be 20 years old. Before some holidays, like midsummer, it can be a long line in the store, and it can also be a long line to get in the store, so you need to be prepared and go in good time before. So Swedes take their work seriously. We arrive on time and we leave on time, and to recover from a stressful work week, some Swedes decide to introduce a relaxing activity on Fridays, what we call Cozy Friday. It usually starts with tacos for dinners, and then you put on your comfy sweatpants and gather with family members or partners on the couch in front of the TV and satisfy your needs for snacks, entertainment, and cuddling. So this is how Swedish homes looks on Friday evenings. And Swedes have the highest consumption of candy in the whole world. We eat almost 38 pounds per year. That's what you have to eat to become an average Swede. Most Swedes, particularly the younger ones, are not allowed to eat candy whenever they want. Swedish parents prevent children from eating too much, but by adopting a rule they themselves learned as children, sweets preferably or only on Saturdays. So these candies that we sell in the store is actually called just Saturday candy in Swedish. Lördagsgodis. Saturday candy. And in pretty much every grocery store you go and walk into in Sweden, you will find a huge, large pick and mix candy area.
Wow.
It's very common. How do you think of mom? Two Saturdays, but only Saturdays.
Shout out to me today.
Yeah, one day. We're efficient on that. So another cultural difference we noticed since moving here, like going naked into a sauna or for a swim in a lake isn't unusual in Sweden. Maybe not too common when many friends are watching, but not uncommon among friends or just a few strangers are present. So the naked bath is not a big deal in Sweden. In school we always showered after PE, like boys separate and girls separate. And if you're walking into a gym's locker room in Sweden, you will find friends and strangers disrobe in front of each other, chatting about plans for the weekend, or generally just chatting on like the most intimate parts of the partner.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Okay, hi. So now we're going to talk about famous Swedes. The thing is, if you are from Sweden, since we're a relatively small country, if we see a famous Swede on TV or someone makes a career abroad, we're like, yeah, he's Swedish or he's Swedish. It's almost like we know them. Yeah, that's the way we are. So we're going to show you some of them, and let's see how many of them you recognize as Swedish. Yeah. First we have Astrid Lindgren. You read her also maybe? She's still one of the most popular children's book authors in Sweden and also around the world, I believe. She has been translated into over 100 languages. And the most popular character is Pippi Långstrump. Pippi Långstrump.
Pippi Långstrump.
Right. This is Stig Larsson.
Oh, I like that movie.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, this is what he's most famous for. Sadly, he died 3 months before the first book was released in Sweden.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a huge success. This is Fredrik Backman. He's the #1, the New York Times best-selling author of A Man Called Ove. It's also a really good book, and it's going to be a major motion picture starring Tom Hanks. So if you have a chance, go and see it. It's a really good story. So moving on to the film industry. This is Ingmar Bergman. He's one of the most successful directors in history. He directed over 60 movies and won 3 Academy Awards. This is Stellan Skarsgård. He has played in several movies, both in Sweden and the States. He is best known, I think, as one of 3 possible fathers to Sophie in the Mamma Mia movies. In real life, though, Stellan has 8 children.
Wow.
And 3 of them followed in their father's footsteps. So this is Alexander. He's the oldest one. Recognize him. Yeah, he's Eric in True Blood. And he also starred as Tarzan.
You see the body and then you know it.
And this is Gustav. He has played in many TV series and movies. Outside Sweden, he's probably best known for his part in Westworld and as Vikings.
Yeah, I remember him in Westworld. Yes. This is a good series.
It is?
Yes.
I haven't seen it.
Very good.
And this is Bill. He's He's the youngest of the brothers who's made an international career, so we'll probably be more out of age.
This way.
Yeah, he's unrecognizable as Pennywise in it. And he also plays in the new Holder series called Castle Rock. So this is not the Skarsgård. George Kinnaman played the presidential candidate Will Conway in House of Cards. He's also known for his roles in The Killing and Altered Carbon. Okay, a lot of actresses here, but this is Alicia Vikander. She's an actress and dancer. She won an Academy Award for her part in The Danish Girl, and she also did Tomb Raider. Another Swedish actress is Rebecca Ferguson. She's probably most known for her part in Mission Impossible and as Jenny Lind in The Great Showman, the Swedish singer. So, okay, last but not least of the great actors, we have the man who, besides IKEA, probably put Swedish meatballs on the map. So is that how we sound? Another Swede who is well known, at least if you're into YouTube, is this guy. It's Felix Kjellberg, and he's also known as PewDiePie.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, when it comes to
That you can tell, but I'm sure she knows what he's Swedish. Wow. Marcella's a
when it
fan?
comes to sport, you may have heard of Zlatan Ibrahimovic if you're into soccer. He had a great soccer career and he now plays in LA.
Yep.
We'll see some more of him later in the presentation. Soccer is the #1 sport in Sweden when it comes to numbers of players. Other popular sports are swimming, golf, track and field, and winter sport, especially ice hockey. And we're tremendously proud of our ice hockey team, Tre Kronor. They won actually the last 2 World Championships. And every time a Swedish team win abroad and come home, we love to celebrate them. So this is from last year in Stockholm. Thousands of people gathered to celebrate the hockey team and then win.
Was an absolute.
Probably.
Maybe 3 or 5.
All right, so I'm just going to introduce some exports. So we already talked about Absolute, of course, we all remember that, but also Volvo, of course, machinery, pharmaceuticals, and lumber, stuff like that. But Sweden also exports something else. Did you know that Sweden is a relatively small, with its relatively small population, is the 3rd leading pop music nation in the world, right after the United States and the United Kingdom. So that's pretty crazy considering how few there are of us. So check this next out and tell me what these songs have in common. And I'll tell you later. Heard it before, right?
Yeah. Yo, my jam back in the day.
Yeah, he's good.
I like him.
Pretty crazy. Listen to this. All these songs were written and or produced by Swedes. Isn't that crazy?
You can hear it.
Hear their accent.
Yeah, exactly. Good accent.
When Katy Perry performed the Super Bowl in 2015, we all saw it, right? The first 5 songs she sang was written by this guy right here. His name is Martin Sandberg. His name is Max Martin, his stage name, or what you will. It must Justin Timberlake in the middle. Do you recognize him? During the year 2014, 25% of the #1 hits on the American chart for pop music was written by Swedes.
Wow.
And just a quick background of that, it all started at the Chevron recording studio in 1992 with the driving force of a producer named Dennis Pop, Dagge Wolle. Max Martin, the guy on the right, came into the studio as a singer of a band that was recording there, but they ended up recruiting him because he had some crazy songwriting skills. And after they worked with bands like Ace of Base, you might have heard of, international awareness came about, and bands like Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and Britney Spears all recorded there in the 90s. So that kind of kicked it off. Unfortunately, Dennis Pop passed away, so that studio actually closed down. But lots of all those producers and songwriters that were working there are now in LA and just producing music like there's no tomorrow. But before all this, let's go back in time a little and see if you recognize some other Swedes. Did you all know those Swedes?
This one, yep.
Have you all heard of ABBA?
Old school right here.
Before ABBA, there was another one that was pretty big, but it was in the 70s, so only a few of us remember this song.
Yeah, I remember this one. Yep.
Have you heard this song?
Yeah, I have. Yep.
I still see it like in commercials sometimes. Stuff like that. But it was #1 hit in the US. It's still not there. The next band actually had 4 #1 hits here in the US. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
I love it.
And I'm pretty sure you all have heard this next one. At least the beginning. Also Sweden. Yeah. Who missed that? And also this next one that you still hear on the radio quite a bit, even though it's from the 90s, I guess.
Oh, yes.
And here are are some more sweets that you may or may not know are also native Swedes. Here's some more sweets that are good.
Everyone try this.
Yeah. Surprising, right?
Yeah. We've got to get your music.
All right, I'm
Now we
going
take
to
pride.
continue talking about Swedish food and holidays, and hopefully get you a better understanding what kind of food and why you're serving it in the restaurant and we are selling it in the Swedish food market. As you probably learned on your first day at IKEA, fika is a very big part of every Swede's life. Basically, fika means to have a coffee, but it's so much more than that. It has been described as a social institution. Swedish people love their fika. It gives them the opportunity to meet and hang out with friends, get to know people, check out new partners, or network with business people. Essential for fika is a cup of coffee or tea, but most Swedes combine the break with some pastry called fika bread. Most common are cinnamon buns, chocolate balls, and biscuits.
I love them biscuits.
The cinnamon bun actually has its own day in Sweden. On October the 4th, most Swedes are indulging in cinnamon buns. Easter. A traditional Easter lunch is likely to consist of different varieties of pickled herrings, salmon, and meatballs. The table is often laid like a traditional smorgasbord. During this holiday, children dress up like Easter witches. They draw paintings and give out in the hope of getting sweets in return. This holiday is celebrated here at IKEA at the restaurant. Not this year because we have the grand opening, but next year we will have like a Swedish postboard with like an all-you-can-eat buffet that customer can sign up for. In mid-June, school is out and nature has burst into life. It seems like the sun never sets, and like we said before, in the north part of Sweden it doesn't, and in the south only for an hour or two. This calls for celebration. Friends and family gather for the most typical tradition of all, midsummer. Many Swedes begin their annual 5 weeks paid holiday at this time, which most of you in management, I guess, have realized. Contacted IKEA of Sweden in July is not a very easy thing because they are out of office, coming back in August. People often begin the day by picking flowers and making wreaths to place on the maypole, which is a key component in the celebration. The maypole is raised in an open spot and traditional ring dances take part. A typical midsummer menu features different kinds of pickled herring, salmon, and meatballs. For dessert, the first strawberries of the season. The traditional drink is a cold beer and or schnapps. Swedes love singing, drinking songs, and the ratio the better. On the way home from the festivities, girls and young women are supposed to pick 7 different flowers and put under their pillow. At night, their future husband will appear to them in a dream.
That was over here.
Midsummer is also celebrated at IKEA's restaurant with an all-you-can-eat midsummer smorgasbord.
You can try it. Midsummer, it's going to be 21st of June, June 21st. So just remember that date. Just
As well here.
So, to celebrate the end of the summer and the start of the crayfish fishing season, SWEA gathers for a crayfish party. We eat a lot of crayfish, we drink snaps, we put on funny hats, and drink drinking songs. Are you about to sing?
Helan går för hoppa la-la-la-la-lej. Helan går för hoppa la-la-lej. Och den som inte helan tar han heller inte halvan får. Helan går. La-la-la-lej. Hej! Hej!
So that's how it sounds on Swedish parliament. IKEA's restaurant.
no harm on the baby, don't worry.
So this is another event that is celebrated at IKEA's restaurant. Unfortunately, I know they're having a problem with importing the crayfish to the US, so it will not be, it wasn't last year and it will not be this year, but we are hoping for 2020. And we will all come and sing for you again. Yeah. Yes, all right. So December in Sweden is very dark. Not much daylight during the day. So on December the 13th, we celebrate Saint Lucia's Day, the coming of lighter days. It's a girl wearing a white robe with a ribbon around her waist and a crown of white candles on her head. She sings songs by leading a procession. And she's accompanied by her maids, star boys, gingerbread boys, and elves. We do celebrate this at the Swedish Christmas Bazaar, our own SWEA Swedish Christmas Bazaar. So please come and see us the first Saturday in December. More information will come about that when we get in closer. So in Sweden, Christmas, December 24th is the highlight of Christmas. After enjoying an abundant Christmas julbord containing Christmas ham, pickled herring, salmon, and meatballs again.
What's on the egg? Is that salmon?
This one?
It's probably fish roll.
Yeah.
Sea pearls. Sea pearls, I think that's what's called. Oh, yeah. So after that, eating that abundant meal, big meal, we all waiting for that big knock on the door when Santa is arriving with all the presents. So we actually, the kids in Sweden actually see Santas and they meet him and get the gifts right straight from Santa.
It's usually your dad. What? Always saying, I'm going to go buy the evening paper. Okay, and then they disappear. That's Santa, right?
Lastly, I'm going to show you you sell these blocks of cheese in the Swedish food market, and we in Sweden, we eat cheese a little bit different than you do here in the States. So we all have a ton of these. I haven't seen it in the assortment here yet, but I know like IKEA-Europe, they sell it. It's a cheese slicer. So we're going to show you how we eat cheese in Sweden. Yeah. So it's make a slice, whatever we want. So we don't have, it's very hard to find pre-sliced cheese in Sweden. Like we buy blocks and we slice our own.
In every home.
Yeah.
So do you like mac and cheese?
No. No, we don't eat mac and cheese. We eat pickled herrings, salmon, and meatballs.
Mac and cheese.
And candy.
And candy, yes, of course, candy. Candy meatballs, there you go. What else do you report?
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Thank
Ready
you.
for the last little piece? You're not falling asleep yet? That's good. Well, the last portion is just a quick introduction to our beautiful Swedish language, so you can just kind of follow your product names and just maybe pick up some Swedish too. Actually, last time we were here, there was a children's book you can, I guess you're going to use it in one of the shelves or in the kids section, because I don't think it's for sale, but you can learn to count in Swedish. So that's a great one. Yeah, it was English and Swedish. Lagom, that's a typical Swedish name. Word. Yes, sorry. Mama brains.
I love it, pregnancy.
Just bait, what do you bait? Not too little, not too much, just about right. We kind of use it in a lot of things, like how are you doing, or how is this, how's the taste of that, whatever we want to.
How much milk do you want in your coffee?
Yeah, just lagom, not too little, not too much, just about right. You might have seen these letters in some of the product names here. And in Sweden we have the same alphabet as you guys, the Latin alphabet. But we kind of need some more letters. It wasn't sufficient, so we just add 3 more at the end. And these are the ones. So you guys, you're free to repeat them with me. Å, Ä, Ö. So Å is, well, more than just a letter, it's actually a word in itself, very practical. It means river, and it's also actually a small town, but that's actually Norway, so I just kind of stole it. That's Scandinavia too. Up in north of Norway, there's a small place called Å. Älmhult. Anyone heard of this place? Yeah. What happened there?
IKEA.
Yeah, that was the first IKEA store opened in Älmhult. And the last but not least, the last letter in our alphabet, Ö, is also a word in itself. It means island.
So an island in a river is an å i en
This is a little bit of, just to make it a little bit lighter, a little bit fun. So this is actual, these are actual street signs. If you would go to Sweden and drive around in traffic or just walk around, these would be some signs that you would encounter. And as you already noticed, they kind of don't really make sense for you guys, so they kind of sound ridiculous and a little bit embarrassing too. They make perfect sense for us though. Infart means an entry. So, yeah. Like I'm sorry, that's so funny. Like you see that when you are entering the highway, for example. Infart. The other ones down there, it's also about, well, fart. Yeah, that actually means speed. Fart means speed in Sweden. So farthinder means bumps and roads. Makes perfect speed bumps. Yeah, sorry, okay. That was Swedish bumps. Utfart, exit, and fartkontroll. They're basically controlling your speed, like speed control. And the one up to the right, that might be a little bit like, what is that? That's the Stockholm subway, and that is end of the line. That will say that. Slutstation. So don't pronounce it differently. So slut means end, station means station. So basically end of station. End station. Perfect sense, right? Here are just a few more words, just some lost in translation ones that I forgot the takeaway. Lost in translation. That's, yeah. Bra. Yeah, that's an easy one to remember for ladies. Like, how are you? Bra, tack. I'm good, thank you. Fart. We already talked about that. Gift. Then I don't know if there was someone making fun of it, because it kind of means both married and poison. And it's actually pronounced in the same way. Gift, gift. Kiss, that's not a kiss, American kiss, that's pee-pee. Prick, that's the dot, like the dots over the I, prick över i-et. That's nothing else. Puss, that's a kiss. So that's normally how I end my phone calls with my mom. Puss, puss. So don't be. Six is actually number 6, like when we're counting. So you're gonna see that if whoever finds that book, the kids book. But it actually also means the same thing as it means here. I guess that's a international language of love. So it means the same. Slut, we already talked about that. Yeah. So don't. Yeah. Slut. So think about that. That is the end. Yeah. Or like we can use it as a verb too. Sluta with the a at the end, and I mean stop. Just stop what you're doing. Sluta. Spy is vomit. So yeah. Spy. Yeah. So just a little bit to encourage. Yeah. I mean that's common when you go to another country. It kind of makes perfect sense for them, and then it's like totally different for someone else reading or even pronouncing it. How to be a Swede then? When we were doing this, we actually found out that there's a book you can get on Amazon. Imagine that, you can get everything there. So there's a quick guide on how to be more Swedish. So you got some quick tips and some. So it tells you all about fika and how we guys are and what we like and don't like. Just something funny that we found out. And just to mention something about IKEA, because all the product names are pretty much, don't really mean that much stuff in English, right? You already encountered that maybe. And there's actually quite a few pages online that people have nothing to do or too much to do, I don't know. They have invented, or not invented, but they've done IKEA dictionaries. So this is one Swedish man actually who translated or figured out what about 1,300 of the product names mean. So that's just curious people. So if you guys are curious what some product names means, then so it was just, I thought it might be interesting to bring it up. Most of the words or most of our products are actually real words. Some are made up, some are put together. We call it Swinglish, kind of mix Swedish and English, and just make it into a word. Some are first names, and then we have the geographical places, or names by categorization, like whatever it's used for. And then there are some ones that this guy didn't figure out. So just some examples, and I picked a few that are a bit tricky to pronunciate as well.
Oh wow, how about that?
So first one, Björknäs.
Björknäs?
That's actually a small town just close to a suburb east of Stockholm. And here it's fabrics and cushion, what do you call them, like pillowcases? Yeah. Påtår, that's the coffee that you guys sell in your food market. And it says actually on the package, second round of coffee. So like when you're going for your fika and you want a second round of coffee, vill du ha påtår? Yes, please. What's next? Skäggört.
Say it again?
Skäggört.
Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. Sorry guys, so that's that's a plant, and then here you got, that's also, I think, fabrics. And then we have sjörapport. And that's your salmon and shrimps, I think. Vågsjön, it's a small lake in Sweden. Here it's towels, makes perfect sense. Östanå, it's a town. That is a lamp here. And then we have sprängört, hönsbär. That's, well, 2 different plants. And here they are what? Comforter and some bellies too. And then Växjö is a town south of Sweden. And here it's a lamp. And the last bit of our presentation, sorry if we overdid it a little bit, like 2 minutes here. We're just going to take help of one guy that was mentioned before, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And he plays, well, LA Galaxy, as Pernilla said. And he's just going to do, he was a few months back at a Jimmy Kimmel. He did a Jimmy Kimmel interview, and he was talking about furnishing his home. So he kind of mentioned a store, yeah.
Do you have any furniture?
I have furniture, but yeah, the story is when we rented the house, we're looking, I said to my wife, listen, get a house with furniture because I don't go out there and following you to get the furniture.
Thank you for the extra word. I know it's so funny.
Well, like, then you go to IKEA and you get the furniture. Like rich people, they don't buy furniture in IKEA. No, but intelligent people do.
I didn't even know that was the right way to pronounce it. I assume you know. It's IKEA, huh?
IKEA.
We would say IKEA. Does that drive you crazy when you hear that?
I was repeating your word.
Oh.
It's IKEA.
It's IKEA, yeah.
He actually got free meatballs from IKEA after doing this. For IKEA.
Well, as you guys can see, we are really, well, IKEA kind of feels for every Swede like a home away from home. So just coming to an IKEA store, going to the food market, that's the best thing. So we just waited so long to not do the drive up to all the way to Woodbridge to get, to come home. That was it for us. Thank you very much. You do remember the last word. Yes. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.